Okay, today class we want to talk about perimeter, circumference, and area. The perimeter is the sum of the lengths of all the sides, and I do mean all the sides. Often, if you're given one or two sides, those are sides that you add together, but you're supposed to add, if it has four sides, you're supposed to add all four sides together. Okay, so let's just start with this square. And if this square, if I told you that it was 4 centimeters on one side, that's all it would have to tell you, because you know that all four sides of a square are 4 centimeters. So since all four sides of a square are 4 centimeters, the formula for the perimeter of a square is, instead of saying 4 plus 4 plus 4 plus 4, we can say 4 times s, 4 times the number of sides. So the perimeter then is going to be 4 times 4 centimeters. Okay, so the perimeter is going to be 16 centimeters. Okay, all right, so let's talk about our rectangle. Our rectangle has two different lengths. It has a length and it has a width. This is the length and this is the width. And the length, we're going to call the length of this one 5 inches. And we're going to call the width 2 inches. Sounds good. Okay, so when you're trying, and it's the same idea. If this is the length of 5 inches, then this is the length of 5 inches. And of course, this is the width of 2 inches. This would be 2 inches. Okay, all right. But, and so to find the perimeter, we would add all the sides together. Of course, there's a formula for the perimeter of a rectangle, which is 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. Or we've also heard these were called base and height. Okay, so 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, or 2 times the base plus 2 times the height. 2 times the base plus 2 times the height. Either is okay. But if you think about it, we've got 2 lengths, or 2 bases, and we've got 2 heights. Okay? All right, so let's just plug into our formula. Perimeter is equal to 2 times 5 plus 2 times 2. So that's going to be 10. And of course, this is in inches. Should have jotted that down in there. So this is 10 inches plus 4 inches. So we get a total of, the perimeter is equal to a total of 14 inches. And if you add 5 plus 2 plus 5 plus 2, you would get 14. Okay, so now let's give measurements to these two figures and let you try these. What if I told you that one side of this square is 5 centimeters, and what if I told you that the base of this rectangle is 6 meters and the height is 3 meters. Now, solve these. Pause and solve. Okay, so notice that the square is going to be 4 times 5, which is 20 centimeters, and the rectangle is going to be 2 times 6, which is 12, and 2 times 3, which is 6, and 12 plus 6 is 18 meters. And notice that the measurements are all just plain measurements. They're not squared or cubed. When you talk about area, that is when you square them. When you talk about volume, that's when you cube. Now let's talk about area. Okay. The area is the number of square units the figure encloses. So if we call this square again, if I told you that the side was 3 inches, and the area formula for a square is the side squared, then that means if this side is 3 inches, then this side is also 3 inches, right? Okay, so if we wanted to solve the area of a square, it's just going to be base times height, or side times side, since they have the same side. So the area is equal to 3 inches, and it's squared. And notice, remember, that's everything inside of the parentheses would be squared. So 3 times 3 is 9, and inches times inches is inches squared. So the area of this square would be 9 inches squared. Okay, so let's talk about a rectangle. If our base is 4 meters and our height is 2 meters, then the area formula is going to be base times height. Okay, so if we fill this in, we get 4 meters times 2 meters, which means the area is equal to 8, and meters times meters is meters squared. So notice every time we have area, we have square meters, square inches. Okay, so here's you 2 examples to try. All right, on this square, let's just say that it is 6 centimeters, and we'll say that the base of this rectangle is 7 centimeters, and that the height is equal to 3 centimeters. Okay, so pause and see if you can use those formulas to work these 2 problems. Okay, so did you say side times side would be 6 times 6, which is 36, and centimeters times centimeters, centimeters squared? And then on your rectangle, did you say base times height, which would have been 7 times 3, which is 21, centimeters times centimeters is centimeters squared? Okay, great. Let's finish up with trying to find the circumference and area of a circle, and we'll be through. We're going to work this one together, and then I'm going to leave this one for you to do. Okay, the circumference of a circle basically is the same thing as the perimeter. It's trying to find the distance around the circle, the perimeter of the circle. And I should have written that way. Distance around the circle. Okay, so that being known, we have 2 formulas for circumference. Our circumference can either be pi times your diameter, or it can be 2 times pi times r. Well, we know what r is because it's already marked on here. It's the radius. Okay, but the diameter, if you'll remember, it goes all the way across. This would be your diameter. Okay, and right now that's the only parts of the circle that we need to talk about. Okay, so if you're given all the way across for circumference, you use this formula because it has diameter in it. And if it's halfway across, it's called the radius, so you use this formula. Okay, so in this problem, let's say that the diameter is equal to 10. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about the area formula. The area is talking about if you were coloring inside the circle, it would be how much area would you color inside the circle. That would be your area. So area is equal to pi r squared. Okay, so here's the formulas that you need for a circle. All right, so let's do circumference first. So circumference is equal to, since we're given diameter, we're going to say pi times d. So we're going to do 3.14 times diameter, which is 10. And remember, we're going to say that that is in inches. Okay, so 3.14 times 10 is 31.4. And notice that's in inches. And that's your answer. Okay, let's practice something else. On the area, we know that it has to be pi r squared. There's only one formula. So the first thing we have to say is, since our radius is going to be our diameter divided by 2, so it's going to be 10 divided by 2, which is 5. So we know that our radius is 5 inches. Okay? All right, so the area is pi times 5 inches squared. Now, notice I didn't write 3.14 here, because if a problem ever says solve in terms of pi, then that means you don't use the 3.14. If this one just said solve the circumference, and it didn't say anything else, or if it said round to the nearest tenths of a place, then that means then you would have your decimal in there and you would round it off. But this one says solve for pi, so it's going to be easier than that, because it's just going to be pi times 5 times 5 is 25, and inches times inches is inches squared. So then when you put this together to make it really nice and neat, it's 25 pi inches squared. Because pi is like a number. All right, so that would be your area. Now, if you wanted to know this in decimal form, you would just say 25 times 3.14. Okay, so let's give this radius up here. Let's say that your radius is 4 centimeters. And you try this one. Okay, so I didn't tell you how to solve for these, but I solved both ways for you. This one, since you're given radius, is 2 pi r, so it's 2 pi times r, which is 4 centimeters. If you multiply 2 times 4 together, you get 8 pi centimeters, or if you multiply 8 times 3.14, you get 25.12 centimeters. On the area, it's going to be 16 times, it's going to be pi r squared, so it's going to be pi times 4 centimeters squared. I didn't put a squared there. And then it's 16 pi centimeters squared, or 16 times pi, or 3.14, is 50.24 square centimeters. And the lesson is yours.